I was mentioning earlier that it's really fun to try a producer's wine and then all of the styles of wine they make. You might imagine you can do this in the way we're doing it with style of wine, sparkling, white, red. You can also do it across multiple vineyards, which is really fun. So seeing maybe the producer's influence, but from different parcels of his land. And you can always do it with different vintages from the same producer. So you can imagine you can do a tasting with 3 different vintages. It really gets you to like understand what's going on in the winery and perhaps what it feels like to be in those vineyards. So with that said, we have Beaujolais Blanc, and it's a very unique and interesting wine. The grape in this wine is 100% Chardonnay. So if you remember, I was talking about that Beaujolais is part of Burgundy, and Burgundy's noble grape is Chardonnay. Chardonnay grows in regions like Chablis or Chasson-Montrachet, Meursault, Pouligny-Montrachet, these famous names, these famous villages, if you will, that are just north of Beaujolais. And they've become so famous that some of the white Burgundies that we have as the traditionals, those ones that I mentioned, can cost upwards of $150 in a restaurant. And they're becoming more and more rare. When I was in Beaujolais and Burgundy this past April, it was really a bad frost, and they had these little smudge pots in the vineyards that they would light in order to prevent the frost from getting to the vines. And the reason that was happening, and it's so relevant, is because if the frost happens in spring and the buds don't break the way they're supposed to in flower, the yield or the amount of grapes the producer can get is lowered. So because it is happening so often now, we're seeing less and less wines produced from Burgundy, and specifically from those heralded vineyards that everyone's craving and needs for their wine list. So enter a little bit more further south, maybe a couple degrees warmer, where the frosts they're still an issue, but not quite as much as in the north. And you're finding the ability to provide Chardonnay at similar, not identical types of soils, but similar soils. So here we have Chardonnay 100% from some very old vines. There's a couple different ways that you would trellis your vines or train your vines in various vineyards all over the world. The traditional is called VSP, which it's vertical shoot positioning, and it looks like there's a post with 2 arms, and grape vines grow upwards, and they're trained to grow on these wires. The other method, which is very common in Beaujolais, is called bush vines or gobelets. So it literally looks like a little tree or a little bush closer to the ground than the first method. And then the grapes just grow almost wild, so it looks like a little bush. And so that's what we're dealing with here, the gobelet. It's not cane trained. And let's smell. So Chardonnay is kind of a neutral grape before you put it in something or you grow it in a soil. Here you have those subtle qualities of citrus, like lemon, apple blossom, maybe just a little bit of saline. Sometimes we talk about saline in a wine, it means a saltiness. So you can almost feel like this area was once a seabed, and there's probably some sort of seashells in the soil, more so in the northern, in Chablis, but you do get that salinity in this wine as well. And when you're smelling it, it smells like there's no oak. So I don't smell the vanilla, the cinnamon, the nutmeg. This is a wine that's aged in stainless steel. It's just completely fresh. Really makes your mouth salivate. So you feel like, wow, I want another sip. And really, wines that have higher levels of acidity or make your mouth salivate make you crave food. So here you are getting hungry while watching the video. Then the typical Chardonnay texture comes in where it's a little bit round. So it's almost like that perfect lemon yogurt with just grating some citrus on it. So you can imagine you have the juxtaposition of something a little bit creamy and a little bit fresh, and what sometimes sommeliers call linear. It means it just kind of finishes very crisp, if you will.